In this video, I'm going to use my expertise as a licensed realtor and an ex-general engineering contractor to help you, without spending any of your own money all by yourself, spot the most common repair problems that we see in houses for sale today. My name's Dave Rupp, also known as Dr. Hot Rod the Realtor. All my contact information is in the description below. Feel free to reach out if you have any real estate questions whatsoever. One thing you want to look for is anything on the house that looks like it may not have been built on the house when the house was built originally. So like take this example here. You have a covered patio. This may not have been built with the house. So you want to check into it, find out if it has permits. If you see a bedroom that looks like an add-on or something, again, you're going to want to look and see if it has permits. You can check with either the county tax assessor, county building and safety, or specifically ask the seller if that room or that patio or whatever the item is has been permitted. Next up, you want to take a look in the electrical panel. What you're looking for is where the circuit breakers are. Are things labeled? Does anything look hokey? Sometimes you'll find this little cover will have sections cut out of it, and there's access in there to see the wires, to touch the wires, where maybe there used to be a breaker and they took a breaker out, or maybe it'll look like something funny's been added and then some kind of wiring or conduit coming out of there. Take a look for anything that looks odd. Okay, another one is the roof. On a single-story house like this, it's easy usually to step back, take a look at the roof from the ground level, and you can get a general idea of whether the roof looks old and weathered, whether there's any curling or cracking shingles or shingles that look like they don't have any sand on them anymore. That's a problem. The life expectancy of a roof typically is 20 to 30 years in Southern California. Okay, do you remember I said earlier, look for things that may have been added to the house, not a part of the original construction. In this case, we have some under the cabinet lighting, which is nice. It looks all good, it looks all legit. There's a switch that turns it on and off, so you would think an electrician did this, but I am challenged by this. Do you see that funky junky there? That is not the type of work a licensed electrician does. This is a code violation and a fire safety hazard. Okay, here's another easy thing that you can do by yourself. Test everything. Lights, outlets. They make, for electrical outlets, they make a little thing that plugs in and has a series of 3 lights on it. It'll tell you whether the wiring's correct on it and that kind of thing. You can push a button and check a GFCI to see if the safety feature is working on that outlet. Check your plumbing. Turn on faucets, watch them work, see if they're spraying water funny out of the top or they're dribbling water down the back of the faucet. See if they leak around the handles when you turn them on. Those things are all issues that aren't too bad to repair, but look for other things like mold. Under a cabinet that's leaked, like this one has a dark spot, it also has a little bit of a belly in the wood here. I've seen people who've had to vacate their house for 8 months because of a mold issue. So you don't want that. Another thing you can check is turn on the heater, turn on the air conditioner. Run it for a few minutes in both cycles. See if it feels like it's cold coming out of all the vents or hot when the heating cycle is on. If it's not, maybe you have a ducting that's not connected to a vent or something. But you want to see that it cycles through, doesn't make any odd smells, doesn't make any odd noises, seems to do what it's supposed to do. Okay, so another thing you want to look for when you're outside, especially on a house that has wood siding instead of stucco, look at this wood siding and see as it comes down here, does it stop and then it goes to concrete? Because wood is not allowed to touch the dirt. So especially on a house that might be on a slope, it's common for the dirt on the side to actually be touching the wood. Another thing people don't think a lot of times about is things like pests, rodents, or some type of different infestation. If you have a house that's not like this is a slab house. If you have a raised foundation house, it's going to have vents in the side of the house, and it's going to have a crawl space to go under it. Make sure that the crawl space is secure to where animals can't get in. The vents aren't torn or the screens aren't broken to where rodents or animals can get in. The squirrels are very destructive, so you don't want squirrels, rabbits, any of that destroying stuff. You get raccoons under the house in the buildup area, they can tear all the insulation, chew through pipes, wires, you lose your internet and you have electrical issues. Same thing with rats even. Mice or rats can be very destructive, so look for signs. Look for rodent droppings. Look for little like dust. If you see what looks like little wood dust, that can be signs of termite infestation or termite activity. So just keep an open mind to look for those things as well. Okay, another thing we want to check is doors and windows. Very simple to just take a reasonably quick look for these things. Windows should open and close easily, whether they slide back and forth or whatever. They shouldn't be, you know, getting cocked in the track or something like that. Doors should be square. When you buy them, they're square. The opening should be square. When a house has a settling issue or problem, then the doors can sometimes get out of square as far as like the side that they're hinged on may be sloping or dropping or something like that. Then the bottom of the door may start scraping the floor. The top of the door's got a big gap in the one edge, and then it goes like a triangle toward the other edge, and it's got tight on the other side. So just take a quick look like this. Okay, so when we're about almost shut, we can look and just see that the gap looks even all the way across the top, all the way across all sides of the door. That's fine. Another thing you're going to want to look at, and it's a fairly quick look as well, is look for cracks around the doors and the windows, the edges of them, cracks going up or going over like this and up or whatever, something like that. They should all be hairline, fine little cracks. They shouldn't be big. You shouldn't be able to stick a pencil in there. Anything more than the pencil lead on a sharpened pencil is problematic. You don't want gaps, you want hairline cracks at best. They don't all have hairline cracks. This house is 33 years old, built in 1990. This house has none. I have walked this house numerous times and there is not a single crack in the stucco around a window, inside or out. And we should be looking both inside and out. Okay, so this one here is not a huge common problem, but it is an issue that comes up sometimes, and that is shutoff valves should be located by the fixture. So in this case, this is where the refrigerator would sit. This is the ice maker and the water dispenser water line coming to it. There's no shutoff valve. They just have this pipe coming out of the wall. Okay, so if you have an emergency and you need to shut the water off and there's water spewing behind the fridge, it can take some time and you can have quite a bit of water accumulate before you figure out where to shut it off. Okay, similar to the refrigerator issue, I want to point this out because this house has this issue. So I'm going to show it to you. There's a hole in this cabinet. You can see I can stick my finger in through this hole here. What's going on here is probably when the house was originally constructed, the plumber mistakenly put the gas pipe too far over there for the dryer, and they went ahead and built this cabinet and left the gas pipe coming out of the wall there. So you've got a shutoff valve inside back under this cabinet where it's not very accessible. And then they were running a flex line through the cabinet. That's illegal, it's code violation, it's a fire hazard, it's a safety issue. That shouldn't be like that. Okay, remember earlier I said that you want to look for things that don't look like they were a part of the original house. This is a prime example right here. This is white plastic PVC pipe. It's been out in the sun, it's turning black. It just has a funny look to it. And it's broken. You can see here that this pipe is not attached. It actually just falls right out when you pull and twist on it, and it's not connected right here. It's just not a normal looking thing. I'm going to show you inside the house what this is and what the big red flag with this one is. Okay, so I'm going to show you what the cause of that pipe outside where I picked up the pipe and it was broken and falling apart. Okay, here's your laundry room. Hot and cold water hookups and the drain line that goes to the sewer system for this house. This house happens to be on a septic system, so everything in the house goes out to a septic tank as opposed to public sewer. Now in this case, here's what's going on here. They used to have another hole through the wall that's been patched. We don't see it here. I'm going to take you in the garage and show you on the other side what's on the other side of that and how it connects to outside and why. Okay, so this is the back side of the wall that had the shut-off valves and the laundry drain line. Okay, here you can see the hole that used to go through the wall. They haven't patched it on this side, only on the opposite side. And this is the pipe that used to come through the wall. And what they were doing was they were discharging their laundry water through this added secondary pipe that runs down and across the floor of the garage outside the house and discharges out into the ground over there next to the garage. Why would someone do that? Again, remember I told you this house is on a septic system? Well, what happens on a septic system is when they start to fail, they stop accepting water. So then the sewage starts backing up in the house. You have to pay to get the tank pumped. And then a couple of 3-4 weeks later, all of a sudden it's doing it again. And they tell you, disconnect your laundry and ditch it out somewhere else. You're trying to cut down the amount of water that the house is using to try to make the septic work. In reality, the septic's just failing and it should be able to take the laundry. But that's a big red flag. Anytime you see somebody has done this, that's an indicator there may well be something wrong with the septic. Now in this particular house, this is here, but the septic has already been replaced. So probably they did this and they continue to have problems. They ended up having to replace the septic anyway. But just recognize that as a major red flag for big expenses. In this case, a septic replacement costs $5,000 to $7,000. Here's a couple other things that are a little bit odd and look a little wonky to me. One, here we have a pipe that's coming out that just seems to be cut off, and then there's another pipe here that's capped off. So somehow somebody changed something. This might be an old propane gas supply to the house, and they may have changed and put it in a different place because there's another pipe over here going into the house. This here looks like an afterthought as well. You have conduit, flex metal conduit for electrical going down into the dirt, and that stuff is rusting and getting damaged. I'm not sure what that goes to or why, but that's an issue that may cause a problem. Here's something here that you might not think to look at. This particular house has sprinklers, fire sprinklers, so that if there's a fire, the sprinklers come on and try to extinguish the fire. Well, in this case, we have an access panel here to see the gauge and see some of the different components in here and test them and that kind of stuff. There's a gauge right here. It should show you the water pressure, 80 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever the water pressure is to the system, showing that the system is pressurized. And in this case, it says 0. So that's a problem. What that indicates is that there's no water to the fire protection, so it will not work. Here's a simple thing you may not think to check. The blinds. Do they work properly? Seems to shut good. Okay, how about opening it? That's as high as it goes up. Here's a couple more things you don't think to check. Is this secure? Wiggle it, pull on it, look at it, see if it seems like it's secure. Just because something's sitting there doesn't mean it's going to be secure and safe. Is it safe to stand or step on these things or sit on them? Well, step up on it, see if it feels solid. Does it feel like it's going to fall apart? In this particular case, this house had all these things set here and they all looked good, but they were loose. And these are heavy stones. So if a little kid was standing here or something and somebody happened to step up on one of these, it could flip over and hit the kid, or at least come down on him and pinch his hand or something like that. Another thing you want to check for is when you're walking through the house, make sure that you're aware of whether the floor is sloping one way or another. On a raised foundation house, meaning the house is on a foundation and there's a floor that's up above the dirt, That's more of an issue than a house like this, which is a concrete slab foundation. Just concrete slab everywhere. They don't usually have that issue, but sometimes they do. I have seen it. In this case, no. But what you're wanting to do is just as you walk through, just kind of get a feeling of, does it feel normal? Does everything feel level? Does it feel like I'm going deeper and deeper? Am I sloping down? If I put a marble on the floor, is it going to roll off into the corner or something? Another thing worth noting real quick, any bathroom that does not have a window is required to have an exhaust fan. If it does have one, turn it on, listen to it. Does it sound normal? Is it making some crazy noise? Make sure it works proper. Okay, here's another important thing to look for: mold issues in bathrooms, especially in bathrooms. Obviously under a sink, like I showed you the sink that had a leak before, you can get mold there. But in a bathroom, it's not uncommon to get mold where a shower or a bathtub is, up in the corners, along here, around the window, on this little deck here. You can't see this unless you're really tall from the ground. You have to kind of step up here and kind of look for it. So take a good look and make sure that you don't see any signs of mold. And if you do, you might want to get a separate mold inspection. As far as electrical outlets go, any electrical outlet that's outside, in a laundry room, in the kitchen within a certain distance from the sink, I think it's 6 or 8 feet. In a bathroom by the sink, again, 6 or 8 feet. In the garage, any of those outlets need to be GFCI protected. To test those, push in a little electrical tester, push the button. Maybe that tester costs you $10, $15 at Home Depot or something. It has 3 lights on it. It'll show you whether the outlet's wired correctly. When you push the button, it'll trip the breaker in these and shut the power off to it. And it's important to have all those working, because if they don't, that's a safety hazard. It's an electrical shock hazard to the occupants of the house. The real purpose of all this information today has been to give you information that will help save you money. So if you're a buyer and you come and look at a house and you say, this is the one, I love it, and then you go proceed with the deal, you make an offer, your offer gets accepted, you get into escrow, the next thing that's usually going to happen is you're going to have an inspection period. You're going to hire professionals to come out and do inspections. That costs money. To get a general contractor to come out and do a general home inspection usually costs somewhere around $450, depending on the area you live in. If he tells you there's things wrong and the seller doesn't want to fix them, your choice is either to turn and walk away, and you lose that $450, you never get it back. If it takes you 2-3 houses, gosh, you can spend $1,500 pretty fast just doing inspections. So this information will help you look at some things first, cover those before, when you're in the offer process, talk to the seller about, or their agent, whatever, about whether they're going to be willing to fix some of these issues or not. And then maybe you don't even make the offer and you just move on because the house has got too many issues, or because you got a seller who's unwilling to fix anything. But the idea here is to save you some money.